So the first song's called Here to Stay, and this is probably the most important song because it sets the tone for the whole album. So all the vocal effects, the vocals itself and how it sounds, we're going to carry it across all 12 songs. So we spent probably the most time on this one in terms of getting the vocals right. And yeah, let's jump into it. So with this song in particular, we wanted that distorted, gritty sort of sound. So we did a lot of clipping, a lot of distortion, and a lot of compression and that sort of stuff to give it that feel. Starting off with the drums, we mainly used... So starting off with the drums, we got that sort of clipping sound. So I used standard clip in 2 instances. So the first one is basically just giving us some headroom and some level. So it's just chopping off those peaks so that we can get it louder. And the second one is giving it that actual clip sound. So we're on the Soft Clip Pro mode, whereas the first one's on Soft Clip Classic. And all of that is going through an SSL compressor as well, just to retain some of the dynamics. We've got 2 basses, so just the normal bass and the sub bass. I basically treated them both the same, but a little bit more saturation to the first bass, just so that the upper harmonics sort of peak out and they just sound better across different devices. Majority of the basses in this album as well will have this Soothe plugin on it. And what this is doing is it's sidechained to the kick, so that every time the kick hits, it's going to duck the bass, but in a very transparent and smooth way. So the drums and the bass sound like this. Then we've got the instruments, which there's quite a bit going on. Not all at once though. They've kind of all got their own role. For an example, in the beginning, we've got the guitars and the synth, which kind of introduce you to the song. Whereas when the beat actually drops, everything kind of drops out a bit. And there's certain sections where the drums and the bass drop out and the piano comes in, and it gives that sort of, it's almost like a heaven and hell sort of vibe. So all the effects and the processing done when the bass is in and the drums is quite different to how it sounds when it's just the piano. We're going for that gritty sound, but then when the piano comes in, that sort of soft, angelic kind of sound. So the main instruments would be the synth, which is this. This sound kind of reminded me of Fiend and how... This sound kind of reminded me of Fiend by Travis Scott, and just how present it is. As soon as that sound is heard, you know exactly what the song is, and it just sets the vibe for the song. So I wanted to make it a bit more present. So I used CLA guitars. I think I just went to a preset and then tweaked it from there. But it's basically just giving it a bit more width, a bit more presence, and a little bit more grit. So I'll play it before and after. This is before. and then after. Massive difference with that. Then we've got the two guitars. The first one is more, well, the first one is the first instrument you pretty much hear. There is the intro reverse sound that's bringing it in, but this first guitar is the main gritty sort of sound that you hear. So we've turned it up at the beginning and then turned it down as everything comes in. And we've also put CLA guitars on it to, again, give it more grit and just push it a bit. Then the guitar 2, which also has CLA guitars on it, but it's doing not as much as the first one is. And this one is, I kind of just want it to be very upfront and a bit crispier, because this melody was playing along with the melody that Ruban was singing. So it had to sort of exist in the same space as Ruban. So this is the synth and the guitars all together. Then we've got the other sounds, such as the harp, reverse, and the pad. These are kind of more just atmospheric sounds, so they're just kind of floating around you. So I've made the harp a little bit wider. The pad, I don't think I actually did anything to it. It was kind of just sitting perfectly already. And that kind of just gives the bass under the guitar and the synth, just for everything to sit on. Then the last instrument is the piano, which all I did to it was some SSL EQ. And this is basically just giving it a little bit more presence, taking out a few of the lower frequencies that might be clashing with his vocals. And other than that, it's just a clean piano. And then the main sound that's getting us that, and then the main thing that's getting us that distorted sound just overall on the beat is soft limit. So this is doing distortion, bit of clipping, saturation, just everything, just making the whole instrument as a whole very distorted. So I'll play it before and after, and you'll really hear what it's doing. And then after. And that's it for the instrumental. Then we moved on to the vocals, and like I said, it was very important in getting the sound of these vocals, because this is what we're going to carry across the rest of the tracks. So the main things that's going on, the main compressor is the Fairchild, and that's basically getting it up front, compressing all the dynamics. Then we've got a Pultec, which is boosting some top end and taking out some of the low end. Basically just cleaning it up, plus getting that sound from the Pultec. Everything else, such as like multi-band, is basically just removing frequencies that I don't like. In this case, it's just compressing certain frequency bands. There was a bit of harshness around 5K. It's compressing that a bit. And then in the low mids here. And then as well, just boosting some of the highs. The main saturation / brightness sound that I guess that's coming from the vocals is Saturn. And it's literally just a boost at 10K. There's nothing crazy going on with the vocals. They were recorded really well. So all it needed was just saturation, compression, EQ, basically just cleaning it up and making it sit. We spent a lot of time on the effects, and a lot of these vocal effects is what you will hear throughout the whole album. So we've got this sound, which you will hear a lot, and that's basically just like a filtered, it's basically just like a filtered sound that sticks out in the gaps. For me, when I'm doing all the vocal production stuff, I like to have almost no gaps where it's silent. Whenever he's stopped singing and there's a gap, I want to have a delay, or I want a reverb throw or something to exist in there. That way there's always something that you're hearing. There's always something going on, and it's not always the same effect the whole time. As you can see here, these are all different effects. So depending on what he says or the way he delivers certain words, it's going to have a different effect. If it's just the same effect the whole time in each gap, then it's just going to get boring. So a few of the effects are reverb throws, which sounds like this. This one in particular has a tremolator on it. So it's starting off as a reverb throw, but then the tremolator is coming in on a 16th note tremolator, and then it's giving it that stuttery sort of effect. So here's another good example of different delays being used. So the first one we've got here is literally just an 1/8 delay. Then the second two, it's not actually a delay being used. I've just copied the last word twice and then panned one to the left, one to the right. So it's basically a ping pong delay, but it's only happening once. And then on the first one, I've got a -3 formant, and the second one, -6 formant. So you'll hear it slightly go down in pitch. It's very small, tedious stuff, but it makes a massive difference when you've got 20, 30 of those different sounds all in those gaps, and they're just constantly poking out and catching your ear. It just makes it a more interesting listen. the last major effect that I'll go through is this printed delay, which is basically just an 1/8 delay, and I've got it automated with little alter boy, and it's basically just going down in pitch towards the end of it. But I've printed it so that it stays very consistent throughout it, and you know, like a normal delay would just go a few times and then sort of dissipate. This one stays consistent, so it's almost playing along with the lead vocal, and it's in that same sort of space.
मैं रहने नूं जिन्हां ने थल्ले ना पुछी सी उत्ते जा पुछी ना बात ने मेरी नी वाइब जरूरी ना यारी च देखी औकात में जिदे ना बैठ गए कि लेना विचार नी नाल भी खड़े हैं भावें भी रहने नूं जिन्हां ने थल्ले ना पुछी सी उत्ते जा पुछी.
So I'll play it with the vocals and you'll see how it affects the vocals and the vibe that it creates.
मैं रहने नूं जिन्हां ने थल्ले ना पुछी सी उत्ते जा पुछी ना बात ने मेरी नी वाइब जरूरी ना यारी च देखी औकात में जिदे ना बैठ गए कि लेना विचार के नी नाल भी खड़े हैं भावें भी खड़े हैं लांगे ही मार के मैं हंस के मोड़दा आउंदे जो खैण नूं टुट के बने आ नी बने ना टैण नूं मैं पहला भी दस्सिया ते संगा ना कहण मैं जान नूं आया ना नी आया मैं रहने नूं मैं जान नूं आया ना नी आया मैं.
So there's obviously some distortion going on as well, a few more delays, basically just heaps of different effects. That's all just contributing to the vibe. The last thing that I'll touch on is the outro, which you will hear again in the last song. And this is an artist himself from UK. His name's Ryder. And it sounds like this.
Ruban, don't confuse them. We back and we better. Here to stay.
I basically just ran this through the same chain that Ruban's vocals were on to sort of put them in that same space. Less reverb. I changed the reverb to actually this, which is just a room reverb. Sounds like he's sort of talking in a room. And that's literally it.